they don't have to, they're not regulated by the same agencies that regulate insurance companies. So it makes parts of getting coverage under those policies very difficult because you can only sue for breach of contract. You cannot sue for bad faith. And the companies themselves are making the decisions about what is covered and what is not, and they don't have to answer to your AB 88 or your AB 171 or 154 or the new Senate bill. So the self-funded plans can be difficult. On the flip side, they can be very good because some companies actually provide more coverage than insurance companies sometimes do. So if anybody has decided that they have one of those policies, we can talk more about it. If none of you have them, then we can probably skip that. So does everybody know what type of policy that they have? Yes? Okay. So AB 88, I am sure we have all heard of it. It is Assembly Bill 88 or the Mental Health Parity Law. What is it? It requires health insurance companies to provide coverage for the medically necessary treatment of severe mental illness of a person of any age under the same terms and conditions applied to other medical conditions. It's contained in the Health and Safety Code and in the Insurance Code. What does it mean to you? It basically means that that coverage for autistic children is mandatory under the same terms and conditions that speech therapy or OT or physical therapy or ABA would be provided for a different medical condition that's provided for under the policy. So in order for your policy to provide coverage for speech therapy for your autistic child, they have to provide speech therapy for a stroke victim, for instance. If the policy provides 60 sessions per year for a stroke victim, they have to provide 60 sessions per year for an autistic child. If they provide 0 sessions of speech therapy per year for a stroke victim, they do not have to provide any speech therapy coverage for your autistic child. Okay, so it does not require coverage for any treatment that a doctor deems medically necessary. It only makes the insurance companies provide coverage for treatments that they provide coverage for a different medical condition. Does everybody understand that? Okay. SB 946. This is actually really no longer SB 946. It's actually now contained in the Health and Safety Code as well as the Insurance Code. But this is the new law that we've all heard about that takes effect July 1st of this year. What does it mean to you? Your insurance company will supposedly be required to provide coverage for behavioral health treatment if deemed medically necessary. No benefits are required to be provided that would exceed those that are required by federal law. And all of these laws are subject to interpretation by the courts. And because the law as it is written happens to be fairly vague, my prediction is that there will be a lot of litigation in the courts regarding this Senate bill. And I know there's probably a lot of questions about this, and I am happy to answer them as soon as we're done here. So Harlech versus Blue Shield. This is a fairly recent Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals case. And what it did was it determined that AB 88 provides benefits beyond those medically necessary outpatient services, inpatient hospital services, partial hospital services, and prescription drugs. So it basically, this particular case determined that AB 88 provides coverage for residential treatment, even though the insurance policy in this particular case did not specifically provide coverage for residential treatment. So the case was really about an anorexic girl who needed residential treatment, and they did determine that coverage was mandated by the policy. So we always still have that medical necessity hurdle to jump. If you haven't figured it out yet, that medical necessity comes up almost in every slide here. It's really, really important. I often get the question, what's the definition of medical necessity? There is no legal definition of medical necessity, but oftentimes medical necessity is defined by your individual insurance policy. So what can we do for you? We provide a free 30-minute phone consultation to answer any remaining questions that you might have. We can also review your policy for a flat fee and let you know what your rights under your policy are or what your options are under your policy. We can assist you with filing claims if you're uncomfortable filing the claims yourself. We can always assist you with filing those claims and deciding whether or not to file letters of medical necessity with those claims. We can assist you with the appeal process, whether you're appealing to the insurance company itself or to the DMHC, the DOI, or you want to file an ERISA appeal. We can help you with all of those. And we can also help you with filing a bad faith case if you have an individual policy, which we talked about at the beginning, and you want to file a bad faith case, we can do that as well. So now I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Yes?
I've got a problem in the agency that I'm the clinical director for, and it's that we send a lot of ABA practitioners to people's homes to provide care. And now the insurance companies are, we still can get a ruling on whether they're going to be covered or only the licensed clinical psychologists and therapists are going to be covered.
So we don't know because I don't know if any of you have actually read the new law, but if you read the new law, it's extremely vague. And if I'm not going to quote this word for word because I don't recall it off the top of my head, but it says it's something to the effect of appropriate providers or something like that. Right. Okay? That's not the exact language, but it's something to that effect, and that's all it says. So
we don't know what that means.
We don't know what that means. And there is supposedly, there is a task force that's meeting right now to discuss all of these issues, and you can Google it and you can figure out what's going on with the task force right now. But they have a lot of the same questions and they're trying to figure out those answers as well right now. So unfortunately, we don't know yet. That's why I predict a lot of litigation, because I don't know if you remember, but when we were very well aware of AB 171, which is not current law, so I don't want to confuse any of you, but AB 171 was kind of on the horizon back in the summer of last year. And we were all kind of talking about it. And I don't recall exactly when I did my last presentation here, and I don't remember if the new Senate bill had passed yet, but we may have been talking about 171 at that time. And when we were, we had a lot of information about that particular assembly bill. This particular Senate bill kind of came out like a week before it passed. And nobody was really aware of it. And then all of a sudden it was there and it passed and the governor signed it and it's law. And I think that it was just an interesting way for it to happen. And because I don't know that a lot of, I don't know how many people were involved in writing that Senate bill, but it is extremely vague, it's extremely ambiguous, and I just predict a lot of litigation because of it. Unless this task force comes up with all kinds of answers and you know, they have answers to all of those questions, but that's certainly a huge, huge question.
Yeah, because the majority of the services provided are by certificated people, by licensed people.
Right, right. No, it's very vague. We don't know. So there has to be other questions.
I have a question.
Yes.
With regards to AB 88,
Mm-hmm.
you indicated that if it's covered medically, it should be covered for special needs.
If it's covered for another medical condition,
right.
Yes.
So when you verify insurance and they say speech is covered, but only if you had a stroke.
Well,
So they can exclude speech?
They can exclude speech completely if they're not providing speech for anybody, then they can exclude it.
But they'll cover it for a stroke patient.
What I've seen a lot in policies, and I think this might be what you're talking about, but what I've seen a lot in policies is they'll say things like it has to be for an acute illness or something to, exactly, something to that effect. So obviously those are all legal arguments that we make, but they technically have to follow AB 88, and if it is covered for another medical condition, they have to provide coverage.
Well, they do cover it for stroke or any kind of surgery, but not for...
If they provide coverage for that, then they are supposed to be providing coverage for an autistic child. They will, there's no question that insurance companies do whatever they can to get around providing coverage. They are for-profit businesses. They are not, they are out there to make money just like most businesses are. So there's no question that they do whatever they can to get around providing coverage. And in the past, people really weren't too aware of trying to get coverage for these things through their insurance companies. And because regional centers and school districts in years past had money to provide those services, that's where a huge percentage of people were going to get those services. And they weren't even thinking about insurance coverage. Well, now all of a sudden, people are, well, it really started when, you know, with budget cuts and everything, when regional centers and school districts started not having as much money to provide those services and benefits started getting cut, that people started looking to their private insurance coverage a little bit more. But now, because of the new law, people are looking into it even more. And so it's actually been really, really interesting, but it really remains, I think that the new Senate bill, for instance, is an amazing thing. I hope that it will provide all kinds of coverage. But if you think about it from a business standpoint and you think about the amount of money that that's going to cost the insurance companies, I would assume that you would all predict that they're going to try to get around providing all that coverage because of the cost of it. If anybody thinks that they're just going to lay down and start paying for everything, I think that everybody is sorely mistaken. But that's my opinion. That's obviously, you know, I hope for all of these kids' sake that that's not the case. I know one of the big concerns is that there will be a lapse in treatment because regional centers, I have heard, are requiring denial letters prior to continuing services. And I think the biggest fear is that all of a sudden it's going to take several months to get the coverage from your insurance company, and that is a huge concern. So, you know, my suggestion in that regard is start filing your claims now, because at least you kind of have a start, even though, you know, they're not required to provide coverage right now, but at least you have a start in that process and you kind of have your foot in the door a little bit. There's also something that I didn't talk about. There are 4 insurance companies that currently have settlement agreements with either the DMHC or the DOI. Those are Anthem, Blue Cross, Blue